With your leave, Mr. Speaker, I rise to make statement. I rise under the section statement by ministers and to make a few interventions. Firstly, I do so in my capacity as the Minister of Finance, and under that rubric, I wish, Mr. Speaker, to report to the National Assembly and through the National Assembly to the people of our beloved country and the discounted VAT rate day, which took effect in December last year. Mr. Speaker, my rising to report on this occasion is certainly consistent with the high level of accountability which has become the distinguishing feature of the Team Unity administration. And so I do this with obvious delight. The underlying objective of the discounted VAT rate day on December 16, 2016, was to foster a higher level of consumer spending within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as a result of the lowering of the VAT rate. Consumer spending accounts for a large proportion of our GDP, and December generally is one of the best-selling months for most retailers. By incentivizing consumer spending, we hope to generate increased economic activity within the economy, such as increased jobs, increased growth, and higher value for money by consumers. The facts are that on the 16th December 2016, the Federation recorded the highest level of sales ever generated for any period of discounted VAT rate day or days over the 6 years that such a reduction was offered. For the year 2012, 2013, and 2014, there were 2 discounted VAT rate days, and they yielded total sales by the VAT-registered businesses ranging from easy $26 million for those 2 days to $40 million for the 2-day period undertaken in 2014. In 2016, the total sales recorded by businesses participating in the discounted VAT rate day amounted to nearly $41 million, with 3 outstanding discounted VAT rate day sales schedules. In other words, all the reports are not yet in. 3 schedules are still outstanding. And at this particular moment in time, we can report that 2016, for one day, has been the best performing reduced VAT day ever and record. This superb performance turns into a rosier picture when we factor in the years 2013, 2012, 2013, and 2014, where we had the onerous 17% VAT imposed on food, medicines, and educational supplies. From about April 2015, it is public knowledge that we removed VAT from food and medicines and educational supplies. And notwithstanding that, for 2015, we outdid the best performance hitherto, and 2016 again, we outdid ourselves relative to 2015. So 2016 stands as the best performance for a VAT reduced rate day ever and on record. Yeah. Of course, this speaks to the economic health of the country, and it speaks independently of all of us. Persons are entitled to their own opinion. They are not entitled to the facts. and the facts relate that 2016 VAT reduced day was the best one on record. Mr. Speaker, the sale of vehicles has been of particular interest for many persons. Again, 2016, discounted VAT rate day was the best ever on record. Compared to the 2 discounted VAT rate days in 2014 under the last administration, when 155 vehicles were sold, 122 then on St. Kitts and 33 on Nevis. In 2016, a whopping 247 vehicles were sold. An amazing 202 vehicles on one day in St. Kitts and 45 vehicles at Nevis. Something good must be happening when more persons can afford to buy their own means of vehicular transport. Something good is happening in the economy when in the space of 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, nearly 100 more vehicles are sold on discounted VAT rate day, or there is a whopping and highly significant 60% increase in reported car sales. Not over 2 days, in 1 day. In 1 day, we outmatch and we outperform every other period under which the VAT reduction rate had applied. TDC was the most prolific seller of vehicles on discounted VAT rate day, topping its competitors with a record of 151 vehicles, 120 on St. Kitts and 31 on Nevis. The total number of cars sold by one entity, TDC, 151 for the record, for 2016 on discounted VAT rate day was nearly 3 times, I repeat, TDC alone in 2016 on the reduced VAT rate day or discounted VAT rate day sold nearly 3 times the 56 cars it sold for a similar VAT reduction period, well, over the period, in that time it was 2 days, in 2014. And it nearly equaled the 155 vehicles sold across all participating businesses and the discounted VAT rate days in 2014. You have to do the comparison to understand the magnitude. In 2014, when you added what TDC had done then, when you added what SL Horsford had done then, when you added what CNC, Auto Island Sales, had done, and all other participants on that day in terms of vehicles, 155 were sold. That was the total. In 2016 alone, less than 2 years after, TDC did almost that alone. 151 vehicles to their account. Something good is happening. Something good, undeniable, is happening in the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. SL Horsford's was the second best performer, and it had 90 vehicles sold, 76 in St. Kitts and 14 in Nevis. CNC and Island Auto Sales each sold below 10 vehicles each. Mr. Speaker, we are of course very happy for all those who are now able to obtain their own vehicular transportation. Thanks, of course, to Team Unity's low tax policy. We know the convenience that personal transportation brings, and we certainly would like all to experience that convenience. But let me also remind everyone that the ownership of a vehicle comes with responsibilities, including an obligation to insure the vehicle, but more importantly, to drive safely and in accordance with the traffic regulations. In this regard, I want to express our heartfelt sympathies to the families and loved ones of those in mourning over the recent untimely passing of two young persons. I think they are LeSean Jones and Joshanti Brian, both victims of recent traffic accidents. We hope that their souls will find eternal peace. My government will in 2017 introduce certain reforms in the traffic department, including the civilianizing of certain functions now being undertaken by police officers in the department. And as soon as this study is completed, the public will hear more on this important matter. Mr. Speaker, having dealt with VAT Day, which is an important initiative in the economic framework for St. Kitts and Nevis, and as I said, has been a practice for the last 6 years, I want now to turn to the overall fiscal performance of the country for 2016. Of course, the details of this matter will be discussed and debated over the next weeks as we embark upon our own consultations with the public. But I wish to report, Mr. Speaker, that the preliminary fiscal outcomes for the year ending 2016, again, are good news stories. I am well aware that under the past regime, it was never the norm to report this way on the fiscal performance of our country, and in particular, the regularity and consistency with which we are doing this reporting, of course, speaks to the higher commitment which we have to the good governance and accountability indices of our country. This is consistent with what the electorate expected of us. The highest standard is what we promise, but we do not only do the talk, we walk the walk here. And that explains why less than 1 month after the end of the fiscal year 2016, I can provide an update on the fiscal performance of the federal government. The preliminary data show that for 2016, the fiscal operations resulted in a recurrent account surplus of $128.3 million. I repeat, for the fiscal year 2016, the fiscal operations resulted in a recurrent account surplus of $128.3 million, an overall surplus of $130.3 million, and a primary surplus of $154.7 million. These three accounts to which I have referenced are part of what is considered the economic classification data. They are the principal accounts to which persons who do assessment of our country and every other country look for a measure of its performance. Yes, this is an international indicator of how well a country is managed. And it is not unique to us. In fact, it is relevant to all countries. That is how, for example, the UNDP will be able to rank country, among other things, in terms of whether they are high income, low income, or any other metric that they may want to use for that assessment. So we are not an island unto our own. And while we understand the importance of improving the quality of life and ensure that every citizen and resident benefits, we also have to ensure that when the international community looks at us, we are proud of the conclusions which they reasonably can make, because those conclusions which they make about us, they basically make about other countries. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I am advised by the Finance Ministry that the overall and primary surpluses reported here were higher than the budget for 2016 by $52.7 million, that is 68%, and the other by $47.9 million, or 44.9% respectively. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal data to which I've just referred are indicative of a country that is well managed. This is the reality that has been consistently confirmed by the ECCB, by the Caribbean Development Bank, by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, and indeed by the International Monetary Fund. The country can then breathe a sigh of relief. St. Kitts and Nevis, the Federation, is in good hands. And that is why we were the only country in the world that could have afforded to pay a 13-month salary, the famous double salary, because we are doing well. And those two statements, Mr. Speaker, that I did under the rubric of the Minister of Finance brings me then to make a statement in my capacity as the Prime Minister of this country. I do this, Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind that we are nearing our second anniversary in government. I thank the people from the outset for the overwhelming show of confidence bestowed in us as a team unity movement when on the 16th of February 2015, they answered the constitutional requirement to participate in general elections. I am honored to say that with just 23 months in office and more than 3 years to go, that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can be genuinely satisfied that we have been working on their behalf, and we have quite a lot to show for it. We are satisfied with our efforts at enhancing good governance and prosperity. These have been the two main planks for our engagement with the electorate. The very act of us coming to Parliament today, as Senator Phipps has done, and as we have done in previous sitting of the Parliament, and our engagement regularly in town hall style meetings to provide a conversation and dialogue with the people is ample testament that we understand our obligation to account. And it is also a reflection of our esteemed regard for the people who put us in office. Yes. In this regard, I can say that next Tuesday night, the 24th of January, the Cabinet goes to the Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School, that's the primary school in Molyneux, where we'll detail our scorecard. Today, we just want to offer a bird's-eye view into the unparalleled record of accomplishments by this administration. On the good governance agenda, which some wish to talk about so often, we are proud of our record. even as we will be first to admit that much more can and will be done in due course. We delivered in accordance with our contract with the people over 50+ manifesto commitments. And if there is any criteria by which you evaluate good governance, it must be, how do we stand with the contract with the people? And our contract with the people was our manifesto, prosperity for all, a fair share for all. And so we have been going very well in relation to those commitments. That is an important indicator about how well you are governing. In a democracy, you govern with the legitimacy of the voters. Yes. You make a sacred contract with them when you put forward your proposal, dub your party manifesto, and you ask them to endorse it. So you can't evaluate the good governance agenda in isolation to that. And we are standing faithfully and steadfastly to the commitments that we have made. And we are going to identify them for public further knowledge, and we will put them in our booklet, whatever we may style it, and make it available as we commemorate our anniversary in government. Because we have been committed to the good governance agenda, we introduce a Working for You program, and that program holds every minister and every senior official of government accountable to the people. Thirdly, we have balanced our budget year after year, and beyond that we have realized surpluses on primary, overall, and recurrent accounts. And I just read the performance for 2016. Indeed, one key enthusiast in the matter of good governance has listed a balanced budget as being an important element of that. And we accept that argument. Well, since a balanced budget is an important element of good governance, a surplus budget, in my view, presents incontrovertible evidence, can't dispute it, of our success in this regard. It's important. They say the pundits on this matter that a balanced budget is one of the critical elements they look to. Would they be honest enough to at least commend the government for not only meeting that standard by surpassing it month after month, quarter after quarter, surpassing it in 2015, surpassing it in 2016. I repeat, since a balanced budget is an important element of good governance, I posit the view that a surplus budget then is incontrovertible evidence of our success in this regard. Critically important, because you're twinning there policy proposals and implementation and fair and honest reporting to the Parliament that approves the budget. So I understand why he says that this is an important element. We have appointed also new electoral officials. And maybe the media did not find this sexy enough to report on it, but we have. We understood that our electoral system requires significant reforms, but most importantly, requires a change in the culture, and change in the culture starts with change in the people who have implemented and who have to implement the policies and the legislation respecting electoral reform. And so we have now a new chairman of the Electoral Commission. It is called Mr. Nasibu Butler. We have a new supervisor of elections. He is Elvin Bailey out of Nevis. And we have, I think it's 11 new registration officers. We are therefore very quietly as these things ought to be done, but very seriously starting the program of electoral reform. We are giving a fresh start to integrity and fairness in the oversight of our electoral system. This is what the voters told us they wanted, and this is what we have been doing. We have not taken the confidence reposed in us by the voters for granted. Sometimes we have to repeat some of what we are doing time after time because we can't rely upon some in the media with agenda opposed to the government to convey critically important information. Because you would feel that nothing is happening in electoral reform. But very quietly, and perhaps we didn't shout about it because we saw no need to superimpose government and politicians, as it were, on the process. And so let the electoral officials do their work. But we understood, and we have brought changes there. And those are not the only changes. Others will come. But changing the people in the system so we do not have a Ringo of George again presiding over our system. It's a critical part of what the voters and what public sentiment said to us was required. And we have addressed that. And it is bare a point of acknowledgement. How we have been so judicious in our choice that we haven't heard any public condemnation of the performance of Mr. Bailey to date. We are doing good. We are doing good. Fifthly, Mr. Speaker, and the good governance scorecard. I put forward the point that our cabinet and parliament, critical instruments in the context of democracy and accountability, have been meeting regularly and are functioning well, despite efforts of the election losers to diminish the reputation of our parliament. We see that happen today. An opposition willing to diminish the reputation of the parliament for self-serving reasons. I want to make the point, Mr. Speaker, without tarrying on it, that I have had several reasons to be in court. Litigation with the former government then. Yes. And when judges are giving their judgment, you can't interrupt them. It is unheard of. It would be contemptuous. Yes. You have to let the judge read their judgment. Yes. And if at the end you have difficulties, you find other avenues for indicating your disapproval with the judgment. Yes. And my reading of the parliamentary procedures, yes, when you are presided in the chair, you deserve the same respect. Yes. The same respect, yes, and reverence, yes, if you will, in relation to your particular interventions in the parliament. And that is why certain traditions come, that when that is not observed, the speaker stands. When the speaker stands, everybody sits. What we saw this morning was a scanty regard for age-old traditions of decorum in the parliament. And I apologize to the country that we have an opposition that is behaving so badly and discreditably after so many years in a government. The sixth point I want to make on our scorecard for good governance is what is happening just now, that the ministers of this government have regularly utilized the provision and the order paper for statement by ministers to bring the country up to date on matters of great public interest. The topics that have been addressed were diverse and interesting, including the reports on the performance of our schools, the progress with the construction of new facilities for the Basti High School. I have heard the Minister of Public Infrastructure spoken to the matter of the prolonged drought in the country. I have heard, and I myself have made presentations on public safety and security. I have heard report under this rubric of the standing orders of the Parliament on carnival outcomes and the economic and fiscal outcomes, and I did it again today. I've had presentations in April of 2016 which reflected independent record that showed that under the Team Unity administration, the largest number of persons ever registered for work took place. Prosperity agenda being fulfilled. The CBI and the SIDF, we brought them to the Parliament in the context of good governance. Immigration data, never addressed in the Parliament. Passport issuance under the CBI program before Team Unity, never addressed in the Parliament. The member for number 8 posed a question in relation to the operation of the CBI, and he was told, I can't answer you. You can't ask about that. That is not for here. That is not your business. You better ask them, the councillors. I don't know if they will want to tell you. That was the response then. And we came. God bless us. And we say, better will be done. And we have done it. And the more we do, the more others are demanding that we do. We have no objection to that. But we say at least acknowledge that we are delivering, that we are on the right path. And of course, you have heard today, performance and VAT days. Have you ever heard it spoken that way in the Parliament? The 7th point I wish to make is that this year we will bring legislation and electoral reforms and term limits and amendment to the Ombudsman legislation, all as part of the continuing program of dealing with the good governance agenda. I want to make the point, there are so many hours in a day. Indeed, legally, there are only 8 hours that people should work as part of a working day. I want to posit, and speaking for myself, we go well beyond that in service of the people of this country. Every day is a working day. Saturdays, you're in meetings. Sundays, you're in meetings. Because only so much can be done in any given day. And you are sacrificing what otherwise could have been private time in service to a greater call and a greater service to country and to humanity. Some people don't appreciate that. But ask the press secretary when she gets a call on Sunday and she has to leave her dad and mom. And they said to her, well, is every day you're working? That is the reality of the service in which we are in. When I wake up at 3 o'clock and I remember something and I have to call my personal assistant, I'm not doing any tweets. I'm not doing any tweets to her at that time. And the cabinet secretary. It speaks to a culture of dedicated service that my administration has brought to the public domain. And we are proud that we are making sacrifices on behalf of the country and people that we love. In light of the fiscal report and the economic reports that many are privy to, I think none will gainsay our success and moving on the prosperity agenda. And maybe why they turn to other things, some of them less verifiable. That's why they turn to other things, because they can't tell us we're not doing well. They can't say the country is not being managed. Our record growth rate and above average performance in 2015 and 2016 relative to all other countries provide hard evidence of our success in moving the country and people on a path of better financial security and performance. We have more persons employed under Team Unity administration than ever before in the history of the country. And the Social Security reports also reflect the fact that more persons are earning above the minimum wage and are being shifted into the higher income brackets. That is an important part of realizing the prosperity agenda, of obtaining your fair share in the growth and performance of the country. Our Fresh Start program has benefited over 325 small businesses, and some 30.5 million has been committed in our budget for 2017 in support of the small business person. This is the single largest amount ever mobilized through governmental effort in support of the small and medium-sized enterprises. We have assisted, since coming into office, hundreds from what we call the PEP program in finding permanent jobs both in government offices and in the private sector, thereby removing them from the minimum wage to a higher level of financial security. And we are now moving from PEP to STEP, genuine skills training and empowerment program, uplifting our people. This will be a major accomplishment and would bring relief to many concerned that the PEP program was a typical element in the squandermania and profligacy of the former administration, which had sought to buy votes and conceal the level of structural unemployment in the country. And that last phraseology, the concealment of the high level of structural employment in the country, was one of the findings of the CDB that came in to do this study on TVET in the country. Our STEP program, we determined yesterday, will be formally launched in February 2017 as part of our celebratory week of activities. I want to say, as part of our record, we have reformed our CBI program and we have put it on the right path, where it is now being lauded by the International Monetary Fund, by Henley and Partners, and Art and Capital. These are international players in the immigration market, and they have spoken favorably about our program in the wake of the 60 Minutes, CBS 60 Minutes expose, if you will, in relation to these programs. We have restored the integrity to our passports, and we pledge to the country, never again will we have another FinCEN advisory of the like of May 2014. And we will work hard to restore our precious visa-free access to Canada, which our people long enjoyed before the former administration ran amok and messed that up. Those tragedies of the past, we pledge never again will be repeated under us. We are about to unveil our housing program, which the member for number 8 asks Cabinet to bless as the Unity Housing Solutions. But even while we are doing that, we have already delivered over 100 homes built by the NHC to our people Yes?
Yes.
And the member for number 8 just asked me to add, we have given nigh 150 homeowners assistance to repair their homes, thereby increase the quality and value of the housing stock. Yes, we are doing well as a government. We haven't done all that we promised that we will do.
Yet.
But we have a 5-year mandate.
Yes.
More to come. And more will be done by this government. I want, in closing, to say that we appreciate the support of all who have helped us into government and all who are now helping us during our stint in the government. And indeed, we have deepest appreciation to those who have expressed enthusiasm to assist us on this path of positive transformation of our country. And in this regard, I must thank our religious leaders for their support, their advice, and involvement in nation building. We welcome them as genuine partners in nation building. We aim to build a vibrant, prosperous country for all of our people, but most importantly, and I'm sure Reverend Heiliger would not mind me putting it this way, ours must always be a nation blessed and obedient to God, so we can proudly acclaim, to God be the glory. I appreciate our close working relationship with the private sector, and we hope in 2017 to realize an even better partnership. In capitalist economies the world over, the private sector is expected to be the engine of economic growth. We intend to work together with the private sector to eliminate all inhibitors to the private sector playing its full and meaningful role in economic life. Whether these are of a legislative nature, the problems of bureaucracy, hiccups in the labor market, the private sector can count on this government to be responsive, ethical, and fair. Our international partners can count on us to be responsible members of the international community. We have demonstrated this with our reforms of the CBI, our passing of the FATCA bills, the common reporting standards, etc., were as much to satisfy our obligations as responsible members of the international community as they were to safeguard the integrity, the reputation, and prestige of our financial space. We are a government genuinely concerned about the welfare of all our citizens and residents. And we humbly ask our people to keep the faith with this government because we are performing. We shall continue to serve with integrity and confidence. We know performance matters, but our love and respect for our people matter most to us. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it's for me to thank every member on the government side for their support over the last 23 months. And I look forward to their continuing support as we move forward. This has decidedly been a team effort. It is our government at work, our government with all its diversity, our government which must keep the trust of the people that whatever we do, we will do, and we will ensure that the public can have confidence in us. We promise that we will work as a team. The teamwork is critically important. We said publicly time and time again, working together, we will achieve more on behalf of the people. And so I say thank you to each and every one the Honourable Premier Member for Nevis 10 for his support and his work in the ministries that I have assigned to him. The Honourable Attorney General and Minister of Justice et al. For his support and for the good support he has brought in particular to the legislative agenda of the government. I thank him on behalf of the country for equally being a team player and for his service to this country. I thank the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 8, for he too is a team player, for his work and his service in the portfolio assignments that had been granted to him in keeping with the prerogative of the Prime Minister and the Constitution. I want to thank the member for Nevis 9 and our member, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Aviation, for his contribution to the work of this team, and in particularly for his leadership in adding to the footprints of St. Kitts and Nevis in the international socio-economic and political space, for ensuring that by and large, the flag of St. Kitts and Nevis is one which always flies proudly, reflecting the best elements and values of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and member for St. Christopher 5 for his service and his leadership as part of this government team. I have been able to rely upon him at critical moments in the life of this administration. For that, I personally say thank you, and on behalf of the country, look forward to his continuing support and loyalty to the commitments which we have made. Equally, I say thank you to the member for St. Christopher 1 and the Minister for Public Infrastructure et al. For his service and his contribution to this team, Unity Administration. I thank him most heartedly for very often reminding us about procedures and protocols and ethics and the role of the line in relation to the cabinet. We value his contribution, Mr. Speaker. I want equally to thank the member for St. Christopher 4 for being a valued member of the team Unity Administration and for his leadership in the portfolios to which I've assigned him, and to join the national community in wishing that not only will we have more regularly 6 and 5 and 7 cruise ships at our shores, but also we'll have all of our hotels and guest houses overflowing with stayover visitors. I want equally to thank the lady Senator and Minister in the Ministry of Health et al. For her outstanding contribution to the Cabinet and to the parliamentary life of this country. I thank her because she has provided outstanding leadership in those areas which are her responsibility to execute. I want equally to thank our newest Member of Parliament, the Honourable Senator and Deputy Speaker, for her role, her contribution to date, and to say that the country looks forward to having you for a very, very long time. And we hope that you're, as it were, coming to Parliament at this time, when perhaps we are the most robust in our debate, have helped to give you that strength and that fortitude to fight on like a brave soldier in furtherance of what is good for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. You could always count on our support, and I likewise want to count on you. To you, Mr. Speaker, as head of this House, I want to end with a note of commendation for your role and your outstanding leadership of this Honourable House. The parliamentary agenda which we have proposed would not be able to come this far without your support, without you making yourself available to ensure that the Parliament can meet regularly and that the business of the Parliament can be conducted. I know there are times when we promise you we will have a very short Parliament, but matters like these we have come to appreciate are not in our control. Who knows what others may do and how long the debate may endure. But we thank you nonetheless, because we appreciate on several occasions you have to make it over rough waters to Nevis. But you have been regular and you have been punctual. Your leadership, notwithstanding the naysayers, have been excellent. And I thank you for taking up this difficult challenge, more difficult than you envisage. But nonetheless, I believe when the history of the Parliament is being written, you will shine like a beacon for the people, and those who will come after you will be so immensely proud. May God bless us all. To God be the glory.